Welcome in, everyone. This is Lisa Schwartz with ITSM Academy. And I know I feel like I say this a lot. I'm really excited about today's webinar, but I am really excited about today's webinar. Simone Jomor is someone for the last 21 years. I had, as another sort of female in IT service management space, I had heard her name forever and sort of briefly in different, industry things had a little bit of a connection, but a little more than a year ago. And I will throw in the link to the open service community. We're sort of co-founders of the OSC, and that's kind of, or founding mothers, I think is what we should call ourselves, Smojo. And it's really given me the opportunity to work with Simone and her. I'm so impressed because the artistic vision of, Simone really brings art into service management and into humanizing service management. She's a very creative, out of the box thinker. I have to say that Simone is in Southwest France, and she does have an appropriate glass of wine with her this evening, as it is for her. And we all should raise our glass to toast, because last week, Simone won a very important award with ITSMF UK. She was honored to win the Dave Jones Inspirational Leadership Award. And I can think of no better person for that award to go to. So, Smojo, I kind of feel like that's all I got to say about you. And take it from here, my friend.
I just realized that in France we say "rouge." I'm actually blushing now.
You are. I can see it. You're almost as tan as me now.
Thank you, Donna. I can actually just see a little bit of the chat just pop in there. It's so good to see. Hey, and really cool, guys. If any of it might be strange, but occasionally I do get some of my Aussie mates on here. So it'd be pretty cool. If anybody else is out there, do say hi and say where you're from as well, because it really is, we're sort of global citizens these days. So here I am, this little Aussie living in France, traipsing all over Europe. I've only had the one trip to the US, but who knows? I might make it again sometime. So fantastic. I'm so excited to be doing this particular talk. Well, yes, my name is Simone Jomor. Let's explore a little bit about what's going to happen here. It's so funny because Lisa is also an artist, which is one of the big conversations that she and I have a lot. And so this creative mode sometimes leads us into the way in which we talk about what's going on in IT and AI and all the different frameworks, etc., kind of leads us into some very interesting sidebar conversations. So speaking of bars, and one of the things that we do enjoy as well is having a nice little tipple and a chat about all things that's going on in our particular world. So whether you're an IT professional or a service manager, notice I dropped the IT out of that bit, or you're just simply curious about the future of tech, etc., I am sure you're going to find different perspectives in here, just to think about how we're embracing AI, maintaining that trust, transparency, and empathy, etc., in what's happening. But I've got something here for you I want you to have a quick look at first. So I can see chat is hotting up. Columbia, New Jersey, Florida, Washington, Southern California. I hope the weather's really good right now because it's wild, wet, and woolly here. Which brings me just to a big quick tech point. I am actually wild, wet, and woolly out here in France at the moment in the countryside. So don't panic if I happen to, this Louise, you're in the east of France. You're probably about 7 hours to the east of me. I'm just a couple of hours north of Toulouse, but a bit wild and woolly. So if I happen to drop, don't panic. Lisa has it completely under control. But we've had 2 or 3 dropouts today already, and it takes 2-3 minutes for it to cycle through and come back online again. So don't panic if I happen to drop mid-talk. It's just, hey, it's tech. It's one of those things. So one of the first things I want to ask you to do, or if you like, your very first question or assignment in this particular session, and I want you to put this in the chat. Now, there's 2 facets to this. So facet 1 is an F1, like Formula 1. And F2 for facet 2. When you're looking at this slide, when you think about the work that you do, the work that you want to do, and the context in our current human tech world, facet one question: what are the messages you receive while looking at these visuals? What are the first thoughts that are popping into your mind? So put an F1 beside those thoughts. And for facet two, if you were to actually present this slide to your team, your colleagues, or even to your C-level suite, what are the messages you want to deliver about our human tech world? Because where we are at in our environment, we sort of sit as a pivot point almost between the teams that we're working with and the users and the clients, but also we are employees too. We also have it coming down, top down with the strategy. So we want to be able to tell them what we're seeing. So please keep that rolling in the chat, because it's really interesting to see service, connected. What are the other things that come to mind as you do that? Now, while you're sharing this with each other, I want to give you a little bit of context in this. There are currently 5 generations in the workplace, 7 living, but 5 in the workplace, okay? Every generation has railed against the status quo at some point during their own era. They are always wanting things to be better. But making that difference has often been quite ad hoc or taken too long. Enter Generation Y and Z. They're the ones that are really challenging the status quo with technology as an everyday natural flow of life and work. By the way, just notice I put life in front of work there, okay? Let's switch it around. It's a life-work balance we're after. My focus is on ethical and emotional AI from the most human of perspectives. So as a snapshot version, I began my love affair with technology very early on. And those shifts have been quite a journey. Everything from learning to type on a manual typewriter, telex machines, Murray code, PABXs, other call center equipment, all the way up to satellites and more. My service and support career has been quite long. So now as a consultant, analyst, trainer, I zoom along with everyone else. But my background also includes being a contributing author to a number of the publications, including ITIL's High Velocity IT in the AI ethics section, and also add in HR, organizational change, and complementary health. So I find the most fascinating technology of all is the human brain. And that's what's led me into areas that I call machine humanity, and being the editorial director for 2 docuseries now, The Era of Humanising IT and The Youth Rise in Power. And that's all about focusing on continuing our humanising IT journey. So here's a fun fact. Now, these pictures, believe it or not, represent my technology career. And that's because we've all had more than one career. But this is a great mini exercise for you. I challenge you to do the same for your career. And this is, in other words, what images would represent your technology career? If rather than just put on dot points and X number of years and this, that, and the other, what kind of images would you put in there to represent, whether it's at a conference or in a webinar or a podcast, but also to your own team, and then challenge your own team to do the same. John, rolling uphill. I do love it. I love this. Velocity, evolution, internet, technology evolves and advances very quickly. It does. Which would you say is the odd one out? I like that. Very interesting. Love it. So it's a really good exercise to think about what is the context in which you're working and living in regard to our human tech world, and how does that make a difference with you where you are at work? So in the army, I was in Signals Corps. Now, those that do Morse code have a communication pattern and rhythm in their send and receive. That's a unique signature to each of them. They all get their own little bit of music going as they're tapping away in the code. And you can actually begin to identify the personalities purely from this pattern and rhythm. Which you haven't already thought about it, is also a very AI-oriented concept. So it's not just the what, but the who in the personality that we're assigning to some of these designs within our AI. So what do you think is going to be the unique signature for the way you're incorporating AI? What is the rhythm that you're programming in to match the way that you work and that you live, etc., and so on? So we've got to keep active that humanness needed in evolving our organization and leadership development approaches and helping our humans flourish so they can have exceptional experiences. The challenge isn't just integrating the AI, but to ensure that it augments the human interaction. We don't want dehumanizing our services. The focus is definitely on ethical AI and human-centric design. And we can leverage multiple frameworks to help guide this transformation. Now, automation excels at data-driven tasks, but it does struggle with the tasks that require human judgment, empathy, and some of our interpersonal skills. So, for instance, resolving complex employee relationship issues, conducting performance reviews, career counseling, they often need that human touch. But there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. There always is in any story, yet the ending also becomes a new beginning, and our chapters keep evolving, as you saw from our slide about the human tech world. So I have a short story for you that will play out as we go along. And I want you to think about how we might revolutionize IT services by balancing automation with the empathy. So picture this. AI and ITSM walk into a bar for their very first date. AI, the flashy newcomer, arrives with all the swagger of someone who just invented the algorithm for sliced bread. ITSM, on the other hand, is the epitome of cool, clutching a well-worn ITIL playbook like it's the Holy Grail. They sit at the bar, an odd couple if there ever was one, an AI with its quick-witted quips about automation and machine learning, and ITSM talking about things like ITIL, change enablement, and service continuity, as if it's reciting poetry. AI decides to kick off with a joke. So why did the robot go on a diet? Well, it had too many bites. All right, I can hear the groans now. There's the dad joke, wanting to get it done and out of the way. But ITSM chuckles politely, then flips open the ITIL playbook to a page titled Incident Management and says, you know, not everything can be solved with a reboot. AI grins, appreciating the dry humor, and orders them both a round of drinks. Speaking of which, let me just wet my whistle for a moment. Here we go. And some kind of futuristic cocktail that fizzes and changes color. I still love my margaritas. In the heat of any big drama and lifelong partnership, let me tell you about that AI ITSM story a little bit more. As with any great artist, there's always a muse. Now, my muse in this session and what you're seeing in the slide decks, my muse is ChatGPT. And my collaborative artist is Canva. But let me also be very clear. I'm the bard. I'm the storyteller. I'm the writer of life in all its glory. I am the human with the ideas, the voice, and the emotions, the one with the deep ache within to share the experiences. So how do you separate the muse and the artist these days? The roles have evolved, and in this human-tech relationship is a real force to drive the processes, with both becoming equally important these days. Oh, hang on, wait a moment. Did I just hear a voice in the dark say, co-create value? When separate essences come together, there's a reaction. Sometimes it's explosive. Sometimes it's so infinitesimal. You don't even realize the morphing that's happening. And in the maelstrom, it becomes something else. We adapt, or we die, or we find a way of living with each other within. So let's briefly explore this story a little further and how we need to keep our focus on humanizing IT. Let's continue the story. Meet the mod squad. It's a lively Friday night at the DT pub. Oh, In the chat, can anyone guess what the DT stands for? The kind of place where tech buzzwords mingle over cocktails and the digital DJ occasionally glitches but plays all the hits. AI's algorithms are practically sparkling in the neon lights, but tonight isn't just about the two of them. They've got company. DevOps bursts through the door like they own the place, dressed in a hoodie. It says, automate everything on the back. They high-five AI, fist bump ITSM, and then plop down at the table. Hey, what's up, nerds? DevOps says, grabbing the beer menu, you two still talking about efficiency? Let me tell you, none of this works without me. Collaboration is where the magic happens. AI grins. Collaboration? Sure. But I'm the one automating all those pipelines you keep bragging about. And DevOps just shrugs and says, hey, fair. But who's breaking down silos? That's right, this guy. ITSM jumps in. Well, that's great, DevOps, but remember us, the ops to your dev? Without governance and service stability, your move fast and break things motto becomes a bit of a nightmare. And DevOps just laughs and says, well, you got me there. Okay, but let's admit it. I make it fun. So as the next round of drinks arrive, Agile saunters in, flipping a post-it note like it's a calling card. Am I late? They ask, sliding into the booth. Sorry, had a quick sprint planning session. What are we all talking about? ITSM just leans back and says, well, we're just discussing how AI and I teaming up to deliver value. But DevOps is insisting that they're the glue holding it all together. Agile just smirks. Glue? You mean more like duct tape? Well, let's be real. You need my iterative cycles and adaptability to make sure all this stuff actually works in the real world. Continuous feedback, guys. Without it, you're flying blind. AI nods. All right, you've got a point, Agile. But can we agree that I'm actually the brains of the operation? Agile just snorts. Yeah, sure, you're smart. But don't forget, you're only as good as your backlog. So, despite association with artificial intelligence, machine learning, and big data processing, the use of technology to attempt to infer emotion and psychological states has a technical history over 100 years old. Not even sure if you guys knew that. Over 100 years old, they've been trying to get psychological states into technology. So one strand of the next gen of AI application can be described as automated empathy systems. Now, these use AI to respond appropriately, and cross fingers, so we hope we have seen the opposite happen in the early stages, to perceived human emotions and human psychology. And there's some great case studies that we can talk about later. AI does make some space. It gives us time to delve more deeply into our human capability, even how we experience technology. So let's continue the story. So as they all sip their drinks, AI can't help but show off a bit, as it does, dazzling with tales of algorithms that predict the future and chatbots that could charm the pants off any of the grumpiest of customers. Conversation's heating up just when a soft voice cuts through the noise. Let's wet that whistle again. Am I interrupting? It's Humanising IT. Stepping in like a calm breeze amidst the storm, they carry a warmth that instantly makes everyone sit up and listen. Look, Humanising IT says as they take us in. I get it. You're all amazing in your own way. AI, you bring intelligence and efficiency. ITSM, you're the backbone of stability and service. DevOps, you break down silos and bring speed. And Agile, you're all about adaptability and delivering value incrementally. But have any of you stopped to ask the most important question? Quick chat fire, guys. Do you know what question I'm about to ask? This will be interesting. See if anyone can get it into the chat before anyone else. What is the question that Humanising IT thinks is the most important? They're all blinking. What question AI asks? Humanising IT just smiles. What about the people? The end users, the employees, the ones who rely on us every day. It's not just about the systems and process. It's about creating experiences that are meaningful, ethical, and empathetic. The table just went silent. And then ITSM just starts nodding. You're right. My ITIL principles do focus on value, but sometimes forgetting the human side of it all. Agile says, and I could do more to prioritize empathy in our cycles, not just speed. DevOps is looking thoughtful. Yeah, okay. Collaboration isn't just about tools. It's about people too. And AI just smiles softly. And maybe emotional AI has a bigger role to play here than just wowing people. Maybe it's about helping everyone feel seen and understood. Let's talk about how we might leverage AI responsibly. Evaluate AI-driven projects based on business value and impact on service quality. Now, this is probably not unusual to anybody that's listening here, but think about it. Whether it's automated ticketing, routing, or chatbots for user support, what tends to happen is we're falling into a transactional life cycle again. And we want to ensure that even if we're automating those things, that we're still realizing that there's a human being at the other end that's interacting with this particular mode. So assess your current maturity and infrastructure before deploying your AI tools. Now, this might seem common sense, and this is something we should be doing with any tools that we're implementing and aligning it with the principles of what we are already doing and where we're at. So it's really important that we do these assessments on the processes as well as the technologies. It's also about what already exists in the data. Information is the lifeblood of any organization. It's what flows to and from. It's all about what gets into the system. And where does it get into the system? Are we dealing with dirty data, or are we dealing with that data that we can trust and is authentic and so on? So look for incremental integration. Start small. You don't have to start with everything. Start small. Learn about it, work with it, and then expand with it. Look at the solutions in phases. Always look at pilot projects, feedback loops, adjusting AI models and processes as you go along. AI is like anything that we design and put out there. It needs to be nurtured. It needs to be fed. Otherwise, we're just releasing it into the wild and it has no idea what it's doing. We need to ensure that whatever we're creating, we're staying responsible for it. Just one moment, please. So think about the keys to what would make your AI integration successful. First of all, engaging your stakeholders, but you want to do it from the different departments very early on. And I'm saying this from the perspective that I also work in HR, and AI in HR is already very well embedded in many places. So we need to think about how what we're doing, where we connect with the other departments as well in our processes. If they're already implementing AI, how are they using it? What type of AI models are they using? And do we peg in with that? Are we separate to that? How might we actually support each other in that? So think about how we promote the visibility of the AI decision-making and the processes, and to build that trust between them. We want to enhance the communication and collaboration across all the teams, not just in IT. So think about
Simone,
the broad, yeah.
Hey, it's me. It feels like a really good time to throw up this first polling question.
Yeah,
Keep on
go for
talking
it.
while it's up, but
Yeah,
yeah. So
great.
how would you describe your org's current adoption of AI within ITSM?
Within ITSM? That's
Yes,
actually a good
that's,
question. I'd also be curious to
thank
see
you.
as well if there's, and if people want to pop it into the chat as well, how much collaboration they're actually having with their AI across the other departments outside of IT. Are you actually sitting down? AI, IT is not necessarily just the ones delivering it, by the way. If you haven't realized that yet, is shadow IT is still there in a big way. So
I
think about,
remember in our OSD group,
yeah,
one of our fellow OSCers talked about one of his friends has been given the job of and time to do it, to go out in I think it's a healthcare company, but a large organization, to go
mhm.
out and basically take inventory of what all different departments are doing in terms of AI and try to put it under one roof. I'm going to
Yeah,
one day figure out who that actual person is and ask them to come present on that because that's fascinating.
it
Anyway, sorry to
is.
interrupt.
No, not at all. I think it's a perfect time to actually talk about it because the thing is that when we talk about our, okay, here's a buzzword, guys, ecosystem. Think about, because AI changes our processes, it changes our roles, it changes our experiences, both user as well as internally. So there's a very big HR question. Oh, look at these results. Exploring options. Okay. Fully integrated, 8%. I'd love to know what that looks like, being fully integrated.
Me
I'm not
too.
sure I'm ready for the chip in the brain yet, but that's very
Sorry,
right.
you're not feeling well, friend.
No, yeah, yeah, sorry about that, guys. I came back from the UK with a little, I think, the conference lurgy. So when you're thinking about how it's changing those roles and user experiences, it's going to very tightly link with your organizational change requirements as well. So make sure that we keep things as simple as possible. We don't want to complicate anything more than we have to. And look for that straightforward type stuff. Remember, we're wanting to solve real problems without the unnecessary complexity. So use your AI. This is a good opportunity to enhance, not replace your human capabilities. We can automate the routine tasks, that's fantastic. But even thinking about it from the perspective of, let's say, service desk as an example, as we automate all of the more simple stuff and even some of the medium level, complicated things, not necessarily complex, but complicated things, the time frame that our services analysts will spend on the phone is actually going to increase. And that means our measurements have to increase and so on and so forth. We have to change them to accommodate for the new ways of working. Really important. But it means that we're allowing our staff now to focus on more strategic and human centric type work. Now, Lisa, we're almost at the end of the core. Did you have another poll that you wanted to throw up?
I sure do. Let me launch it now. There we go. The
Biggest
biggest challenge. Yeah, and again, we focus this on into ITSM processes
Mm-hmm.
because we thought, considering the audience, a little unfair to ask like corporate wide, but considering the audience, probably a good understanding of AI and ITSM.
Yeah.
And here's a fun fact,
Ooh.
because Simone's been traveling and life is busy. Um, as we launched the webinar, I went to ChatGPT. I provided the link because we had posted the presentation, and I asked ChatGPT to write me two polling questions. And within 38 seconds, it provided these two
See?
polling
How
questions.
fantastic is that?
I know. It's such a time saver. I
It
am
really is.
absolutely in the core of that gives me time to do stuff that's more interesting. Like that's, and I should have asked that
Yeah.
polling question kind of, I'm in the yes, please bring it, bring on the robot overlords, as long as I get to do more interesting things than
Oh,
think up
Kirsten, I
polling
so
questions.
agree. Lack of clear processes. See, and it's the same with the governance stuff that we talk about too, is that when we think about AI and the ethics, etc., the whole thing with governance, it's always about understanding our hard and our fluid boundaries, because there are both there. And what does that look like? What are the behaviors that we're actually wanting out of each of the different roles that we have? Um, yeah, lack of expertise and integration with existing tools and processes. And that's actually a really fascinating one too, because a lot of the service management vendors out there are like madly pedaling to get their AI stuff into their systems as quickly as possible. And of course, there's commercialization, of course, and that type of stuff. Okay, so Kirsten, you must be one of the others, like, so lack of clear processes, lack of ensuring our reference data. Yeah, it all comes back to knowledge management strategy is also another key thing that's often missing in this stuff as the challenges. What did we get as our results? Again, that was the 8%. What was the one with the, interestingly, you put resistance to change. Being an OCM myself, and having been involved in a lot of mergers and acquisitions, I'm not big on this term resistance to change, because change is actually something we often desire. We actually want things to be better, and in order to do that, we change. So I think resistance is actually a misnomer. It's focusing too much on the negative rather than looking at change as a whole. What do you think
that
about
makes me think of that makes me think of change is great. You go first. You know, like which I think is kind of a prevailing feeling with a lot of people. But I agree with what you're saying, that a lot of people would, I think, rank themselves as being highly resistant to change.
But they're not.
Well, I know.
This is the interesting thing. When you think yourself, oh, I don't like change, I'd actually challenge you on saying that self-talk, because quite often there's something you say, oh no, I really like this, I want to do that. And that desire within you helps you become more resilient and adaptive to things. Oh, John, thank you. Balancing structure and adaptive processes. Absolutely. That's going to be very important. It has to be adaptive. And that's part of what resilience is about. There's a very big difference when I'm talking from a leadership or HR perspective, even. When I ask people, I say, they say, oh, I'm really flexible. And I say, well, hang on. Are we talking about flexibility or adaptability? Because there's a very big difference between the two. Flexible, bend in the wind and come back to the same point that you were at before. That's all well and good. But adaptability means you actually shift. You become something else. Everyone likes changes until it applies to oneself. I think it's all contextual. I think this is where we don't often communicate or clarify well enough what we mean by the change itself. So let's think about that, a new paradigm. How might this story end? It never really ends. It just keeps going. But I want you to think about this. As the Digi playlist hits the track Don't Stop Believing, they realize, the mod squad that is, that they set to revolutionize the future of IT, one human-centered service at a time. They raise their glasses in a toast to us. They say, yes, the ultimate team. Together, they actually balance innovation with stability. They balance adaptability with empathy and automation with heart. So let's make IT a better place for everyone. The night ends with them all laughing, sharing ideas, and even hitting the dance floor. Where Agile shows off their smooth moves, DevOps tries to break dance, ITSM is in their classic 80s mode, and AI crushes the robot. And humanizing IT, yeah, just grooves effortlessly, keeping them all in sync. So let's be honest, who wouldn't want to see where this story goes? That, for me, ladies and gentlemen, is the presentation. And now I'm looking forward to some open discussion.
So first of all, thank goodness I was on mute, because I laughed so hard so many times. I think that ITSM is dancing to She's a Brick House, just FYI, in case you were wondering. And yeah, I mean, I do a lot of TED Talks. I attend a lot of TED Talks. This is a Simone talk, and I absolutely loved it.
Oh, I like what Mr. says. Will their baby look like?
I don't know. Let me ask ChatGPT.
Ask ChatGPT. See what it says. That would be so funny. That's hilarious. So, guys, I want you to think about that human tech world slide of images that we originally had. Just some of the things that we've said. I know there's a lot of tangents here. Very happy to answer ask me anything, I'm ready. Whatever it is that you want to put out there. because I have to say, it is, if you can imagine it, yeah, just being in a bar, chatting away like we do, it would be quite incredible to think of the things that are said. Here's a question for you guys in the chat, actually. As I was talking about the personalities and some of the little phrases that came out of their mouths, did the story ring true for you? I think that's a good question. Did the story ring true? Do you see those elements within your people or within yourself? We are a whole person. Oh, hey, Judy. So cool to see you on board.
Here's what you probably know this, but I happen to call my chat GPT Gwen.
Okay.
And my image producer is her cousin Pixie, just because, but here's what Gwen said if they had a baby.
An agile human-centered IT ecosystem blending ITSM
It's not that
structure,
good.
DevOps speed, and innovation. Hmm.
Close to good. But she also gave me a very long, like 6 bullet answer, which was, I was like, okay, now do it in one sentence. And that's the thing with Chat GPT, isn't it? It's all about the prompts.
It is, and this is the lessons learned. John, thank you for your comment too. I like this, that we're here to build social capital. Absolutely. One of the big areas, of course, that I work in is DEI. So diversity, equity, and inclusivity, especially coming from that HR perspective, and the humanizing IT, and doing a lot with the OCM. So there is a lot of things that we want to do in terms of sharing that emotional depth and complexity of relationship building. Something I can really recommend to you guys is have a really good look at what's recently happening with the Cynefin framework from Dave Snowden, Esterine mapping, all of these types of things. But in particular, using Cynefin and what they're calling their sense making, because sense making is a story. Sense making is allowing everyone within the organization, not just within IT, to actually put in their experiences of what's happening, in a particular context. But it's freewheeling. So they get to, whether they're looking at images or get to write a sentence or two here and there, and then AI will be able to look at those and look for the patterns and the feelings and those sorts of things and draw out of that what's really going on within the organization. Mind you, I don't do this without saying must have human oversight. Do not be Frankenstein's monster. Do not be Frankenstein, I should say, because Frankenstein actually, he just let it flow out into the world. He ignored his responsibility of looking after the monster's needs.
It wasn't Frankenstein's fault, and yet everyone blames him. I think there's a little fable in there.
There is. But it's still a really good storyline, isn't it? To sort of think about, well, it didn't necessarily mean he had to give AI what it needed necessarily, but it definitely had to help it understand, give it context, nurture it, feed it the right things. And when it was getting feedback when it wasn't right, how do we then correct that? So there's an awful lot of stuff about that.
Simone, if you would, after we're done today, if you could just put together a short list of some of the sites you just recommended. What we'll do
resources,
is
absolutely.
in the thank you for attending, we'll attach the link to those resources.
Absolutely.
In that email.
There's so many. And the other thing too is I can, normally, especially in IT, our leadership, we're not taught a lot of the people management skills. We don't have the HR background, or we don't have the learning and development background, and so on and so forth. And, we've kind of been left to flail out there and experiment a little bit, which is not a bad thing per se. And some people are very natural in dealing with these other things. And other times you're like, oh my God, do I really have to deal with that? So I very much recommend Hacking HR Lab as well. There is so much support, so much knowledge, so much support that you can gain as a leader from that perspective, from the people perspective.
I threw in, just want to not forget to say this. I earlier threw in the chat for the open service community group. We meet every Friday morning. It's completely, I mean, a volunteer organization makes it sound even bigger than we are. It's a group of people that like starting, in my case, or finishing in Simone's case, our Friday together. It's very free form in terms of what we talk about. There's some really great people that
so
attend
8 a.m. your time is actually 2 p.m. in Europe.
Oh, okay.
And 1 p.m. in the UK. So I just thought I'd throw that out there because you guys get early morning, I get an afternoon break.
Oh, that's true. David talks about having his lunch with us. So that's true. Anyway, there's the link. And it's just, we put the meeting invite on the, you could either come in through Discord or Slack. Honestly, the Discord is where we have all the channels, and there's a ton of great, there's like a job connection and a mental health. There's a ton of great channels in Discord, but we know not everyone uses that. So we also have a slimmed down version on Slack, since that's sort of how we
the really cool thing, I think, with OSC is that there's no one agenda. That's one of the things I really like about it. There's actually, it's kind of like the no agenda conference type stuff. It's whatever's happening at that moment. So in those first few minutes, we're always sort of freewheeling and sort of, hey, what's going on for peeps? And sometimes somebody will put their hand up and say, hey, I really need help with this particular topic, or this has just happened to me. Yeah, exactly. And sometimes we may organize a presentation for something else where someone just does 20 minutes and then we just throw it open to the floor, kind of like what we did here today. And saying, here's the topic. What do you think about it all? I'm actually going to go back to this slide because I think that's really cool. The image, there you go, some of my AI imagery. It's just really cool to think about is what is it going to look like for you in 2 months? What's it going to look for, say, March next year? What's that going to look like for you? Because we've got Christmas and holidays and things in between. So don't try and sort of pressure yourself. Remember, mental health, it's always a positive thing. And what you might do. Oh, here comes the song again.
Oh, yeah. We love that.
Stop believing. That, by the way, is a Swedish singer called Mariette.
Did not know that. See all the things I'm learning today. And I really loved when you said it is life-work balance, because it's one of those ironies. I've never thought about it. It's so commonly called work-life balance. What comes first?
Flip it.
Yep, I love that. That's my biggest nugget from today.
Just keep saying life work, and eventually you'll find other people will pick up on it at work.
Like power skills, right? It used to be called soft skills, and
see, I don't use soft skills. Sean I just McLean. Call them human skills.
Oh, see, I'm on to power skills. Sean McLean taught me that, and I think because soft skills are so hard. Why were they ever called soft skills? It's like one of those things that doesn't make a lot of sense.
There's something else that's cropped up as well. We've got to stop calling change hard. Because
what would you call it?
Change isn't hard. Change is something that we often desire. So it's all based on context. So it's like, I would rather say change is whatever you desire it to be. Change is desire. And you might not have the desire for it, hence not having the energy, don't want to put the effort in, etc. Or you might have a large desire for it, in which case you're fired up and want, motivated to push it forward. So I would rather call it change desire, because that level can be on either end of the balance.
I like the way you're thinking about it. Change is life, John. You are correct.
Exactly.
Listen, we have 15 minutes left. Simone knows all things about all things, service management and a lot of HR and a lot of, if you have any questions, please throw them in. I would,
Oh,
I always
Donna,
feel special when
yes.
I get 15 minutes.
So funny it was in person. Yes, eustress versus distress. As I say, I am a complementary health qualified as well. Used to work in clinic and stuff like that too. And there is a big difference. Stress is just always there. If you didn't have stress, mechanical stress, you wouldn't even be able to get out of your chair. You wouldn't get out of bed in the morning because you wouldn't have the stress on the bones, etc., to make it happen, right? Stress is stress. Stress is neither good nor bad, right? Eustress is the positive side. Distress is the negative side. Now, when you think about how am I feeling at the moment, always think about your energy line first, because that's the first thing, isn't it? What sort of level of energy have we got? Is it high energy, low energy? There's no right or wrong, because we know as you cycle throughout your day, sometimes the cycle can be really long, and sometimes the cycle for wear, tear, rest, and repair can be quite short. Just depends on where you're at in that context today. So always look at your energy line first, and then think about, am I more on the positive side or am I more on the negative side? And the beauty of doing that quick self check-in of where you're at, wherever you're at throughout the day, however many times you want to do that. But if you're about to go into a meeting, whether it's your boss or a colleague or a subordinate, if you're about to talk with a particular client, you know, when you see the name come on the screen and you sort of go, yeah, that one, then think about where you are at. When you hear their voice, this is where I love AI. So I'm going to bring this back to AI because there's some cool stuff out there. I would so love my AI voice buddy as my colleague on the service desk, because the voice analytics out there at the moment is superb. They are up to some of the tests. There's a couple of there. There's one called Oliver Appy, and there's a couple of others. And the test results are now 89 to 90%, where they can detect the level of PTSD within the voice.
PTSD.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So there's
Speaking
so
of
much
PTSD,
happening in AI health that we can utilize that. If we know where's our energy at, positive, negative, you know, that sort of thing. And then when we hear it in the other person's voice, if we're not quite sure, we can have our little buddy there, maybe doing a little scale for us, because as we visually see what's happening, we can then make those micro adjustments within our own voice and the vocabulary we're using, etc., that can make a mega difference. And in doing so, actually speeds up the conversation and makes the customer feel so much better.
was the reason I said, speaking of PTSD, which I guess is not really a funny joke. My hound dog puppy was sitting next to me crying like her life was over. I couldn't even hear you. So this is probably going to be on the recording. Apologies, all.
Yeah, I think my pussycat might be doing the same thing. But as soon as you open the door and it's wild and woolly out there, I think Pepe Le Pew is going to look at it and go, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not. All right. So do we have any more questions?
I'm just looking at John's comment here. Yeah, humanizing IT critically important. AI complements, not replaces human interactions. Definitely, inadvertently, the negative aspects is coming into high gear. Bias, ethics. It's always, we're going to have to keep working on that. That social capital thing that you've been talking about, John, it really is important. But you know, the socialization of anything that's going on has always been. Let me put it this way: the human condition. I've often asked the question, our technology has evolved. Technology is ageless, right? Our technology has evolved. But have we as humans evolved enough to keep up with the technology? Are we influencing the tech, or is the tech influencing the way we behave? And I think it's both. The question becomes the balancing act between those two.
I think it's different generationally.
Well, it's like I said before, we've had all those generations. Every generation has bucked the system at some point. Every generation wants to say, I don't want to do what the previous generation has done. I want to make a difference. And there has been progress in some facets to that. But there gets to a point, doesn't there? There's a tipping balance, you know, whereas there are generations now that are our future leaders. They Some of them already are employees. Some of them are already our customers and users, etc. Now, if these are our future leaders, these are people, human beings that have not known the world without tech, whereas I have.
Right.
So,
I remember getting my first ATM card.
well, I think about it like the 3 or 4 times today that during the big wins and stuff when our system glitched and you have to wait for it to cycle through, and then you have to think, is it going to cycle through? We are out in the countryside. There are some times where the system just goes down for 2 or 3 days. What do you do in the meantime? It's like, hang on, hang on, let me get find signal.
Well, I was thinking about this yesterday. It used to be if you lost internet back when we were in an office and there was still pieces of paper, you could always spend, 15 minutes to a couple hours doing filing. That's
analog.
not even a thing anymore.
I still do analog.
All right. So I do want to say this. The folks that answered that they felt they were pretty well integrated, I'm fascinated. I personally would love to learn more. I know that Simone would love to learn more. If you're one of the people who said that, I put Simone's LinkedIn profile in the chat. You reach out to us, please. I would, not only would I love to, but it's important for us. It helps us help other people, learning what worked and what didn't work. For us to then be able to share those stories is really helpful. And so, do good.
People
Talk
like
to
the
us so we
realism.
can share your story.
You want the reality.
Yeah. My buddy Jay says that's the conference that we should have. We should have fail.com, and we should just have organizations come in and talk about, we tried to improve our onboarding process. It failed. Here's why. We tried to, it failed. Here's why.
I don't mind that idea, but there's still a balancing act between too much negativity versus too much positivity. Because even over positivity is also a toxic killer.
Yeah.
So I think I would rather call it reality.com rather than failure.com.
Yeah, right. IRL.com.
Yep.
Yeah.
IRL.
Did you say what a DT pub is?
Oh, did anyone actually come up with what the DT bar was? I mean, it's so
somebody
lame.
said digital transformation. I said downtown.
That's it. It is digital
it
transformation. It is.
I said downtown. What do I know?
Oh well, now you've said that, I've got the earworm from the song.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Well, now we're just chatting like everyone's not here with us. So if there are no other
guys, if you're listening into this, feel free to throw things into the comments. We've still got just a few minutes left, and it's so much great fun. And I have to say, in the open service community, it's just like this, where you've got, I don't know, 12 people. We've got a couple of 100 plus members already, and people jump in, jump out. It's not every Friday. I jumped in, I think it was last week or the week before, from the train. Things like that.
You brought in a class from the Philippines when you were there teaching.
I did. Fred, DT. Well, DT stands for digital transformation, the DT bar. That's how I.
Oh, but the DTs aren't that like the shakes from? I just got that.
I don't know why
Fred made me think of that.
That's why I was having a giggle. Yeah, the DT bar is where you go the next morning just to get rid of the shakes.
The hair of the dog bar.
The hair of the dog bar. Hang on, isn't that what? I can't have it because I'm allergic to tomatoes. What's the? I know a few of our friends enjoy that particular cocktail. Since we talked about cocktails, the
Bloody Mary.
Thank you. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the Bloody Julius, I think it's called in Canada.
Oh, really? Let's see.
Yeah, something Caesar, it's called in Canada. I learned that on our cruise to Alaska, as a matter of fact.
Did I pop in a little bit of maple syrup just to sweeten things up?
Like the way you think.
Well, see, guys. This is the thing, guys. Remember, when you're thinking about all your skills, whether, everything we've talked about today, there is a complete shift happening within your competency framework. So really hook into that for yourself as well as for the people around you and the people that you're actually leading. It's just super. We've even got things like robo psychologists. We have data detectives now, the guys doing machine learning and all the LLMs. Anyone doing reporting and data mining, we've also now got script writers. Now, I know this sounds weird to say script writers, well, that's just coding. Is that, whoa, hang on, back up a little bit. So all of you dev guys, I used to be in dev, so I used to love writing code. I leave it to you guys now. But the thing is that when you're writing a script for chatbots or AI and things like that, think about what ChatGPT, any of the Gen AI stuff, is it needs natural language processing. You need to be thinking about your scripting as a conversation, because that's what human beings have, is we have a chat, we discuss. There are cultural nuances as well, not just straight language translations and things. And the AI can only do that from your own improving incrementally about what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, how we respond to certain things. Oh, Fred had to go away. So that's terrible. But anyway, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. Hopefully it made you think. Hopefully it jumped you out of your little box a little bit and helped you see things from a different perspective.
Another huge nugget from today. I laughed so hard when you said, and then AI saunters in the bar like they just created the algorithm for sliced
bread. Such an old
I'm
saying,
using that
isn't it?
one too.
Thank you, John. I'll see you on the OSC, hopefully.
Which is tomorrow morning.
It is, everyone. Well, your tomorrow morning,
Or
my
afternoon.
afternoon.
Or afternoon.
Yeah, my afternoon, before I then have to saunter off to Paris on my way to ITSM Finland.
Oh, the Finnish are so lucky to have you. Look at you, traveling around the world, training people on how to humanize things, winning awards, going to Finland. I'm so grateful after all these years of knowing your name and sort of almost knowing you that I feel sisterhood with you.
You make it sound so glamorous. It's really not. Those of us that are in the traveling with consulting and training, no, it is not that glamorous.
I'm just being snotty because I haven't had to travel very much since the pandemic. So
maybe that's not such a bad thing either. You can hear, I think I had the perfect storytelling voice today as a result of my
for this bar story. Yeah.
I need to do this. Thanks, Judy, John, Lee,
Yes,
Fred,
thank
Donna.
you all for coming.
Yeah, whoever else is seen on there. I can't see all the names on there, but thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to present for us. As those of you who, a lot of people attend a lot, we do webinars every Thursday and have since 2007. I haven't decided about December because of where the third Thursday falls.
Yeah.
We might just wait for January. What we know for sure is that our own Donna Nat will be doing the state, like 2025, the state of ITSM end. And what she always does is take sort of where ITSM is and what she, sort of what we've seen accomplished in the last year, 2 years, in terms of industry shifts and what's coming in the future. It's always a great presentation. So we know that one's going to be January 16th, the third Thursday. And I haven't decided yet about December. If anyone on this call, particularly anyone who said that their AI is integrated, would like to present our webinar, I am, practitioner presentations are always so well received.
Absolutely.
And we can help you put it together. And one of the things that we do for each other in the OSC is when someone has a presentation coming up, we dry run. So, lots of ways to support if you want to come tell your story, because the stories are, practitioner stories are the best. So, all right, that's my pitch on webinars. We're at the top of the hour.
Oh, and remember, they do get a CPD point for being.
Oh, that's right.
this webinar.
Yes. Yes. So for those of you that have PeopleCert Plus membership, you log today's webinar and all of our webinars for a CPD point to get you there. Thank you for remembering that. Smojo.
Hey, HR, remember all about the education. Oh, hang on. In ITSM Academy's case, it's a webication.
That's right. It is a webication. I love giving stuff silly names, and I love when people appreciate that. So thank you, my friend.
So welcome.